Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'd like to talk about Doctor Who once again, relating to a comment question I got from Magpie's Nest Productions, who asks, do you think there is a lot more War Doctor than we currently know? Because in the Night of the Doctor, it was a younger John Hurt who regenerated out of the 8th Doctor. Essentially, could there have been more to him for 10 and 11 to hate? And I did touch on this a little bit in a previous video, I forget which one actually, talking about the regenerations and everything like that, that I thoroughly believe there was tons and tons more of the Time War and John Hurt's, incarnation of the Doctor and everything like that. Because what we basically saw in the Night of the Doctor, as you say, he regenerates out of the 8th Doctor, and he's a young man. Cut to the Day of the Doctor, when we enter that sort of war room of the Time Lords of Gallifrey, they're talking about having spent all of their weapons and all of their, with the exception of the final one, which is the one that, of course, John Hurt's Doctor takes. So a lot of stuff has been done that we will never see. And in a sense, I find this to be sort of brilliant, the way Stephen Moffat art to this, so to speak, because what we have in effect is we have a 50th anniversary that shows us Gallifrey, that shows us Time Lords and the Time War, a big epic scope battle, but it also keeps so much of it hidden to not undo the sort of majesty and horror that was described about the Time War during Tennant's run as the 10th Doctor. All of those things that Russell T. Davies hinted at, the Nightmare Child, the fall of Arcadia, well, of course, we did see the fall of Arcadia in a manner of speaking, but a lot of those other things that they referenced and things that we can't even imagine are still as yet left off screen. And sure enough, I'm positive that the War Doctor had to have taken lives, fought Daleks. I doubt he tried to kill Time Lords, but I have a sense that, we were kind of misdirected at the end of the Night of the Doctor, in that here we thought, the War Doctor was actually going to be like the Warlord. He was going to be ruthless. He was going to be like the Master. He was going to be a hinge point for Gallifrey and for the Time Lords in the Time War, one of their most effective, pieces of the battle. But I think that ended up not necessarily being true the way we assumed it would be. Yes, he was an integral piece to the war, and it was through his frustration of anywhere from decades to millennia of fighting this battle across timelines and time zones that finally he got fed up and he had enough, and he was the only person who could make a change. Unfortunately, his change was, his determination was that it had to be destruction, the mutual destruction of both the Daleks and the Time Lords, who had, as it's been said, become as bad as these Daleks were as far as threats goes to the universe. And I mean, we've seen hints all through, the modern series of how the repercussions were just expanding outward. The whole universe was said to have been in flames. So many countless species were lost, especially the ones on the higher planes and everything like that, were affected by what was going on. And at the center point of that must have been the War Doctor. But he always had ingrained in him the man he was, and the man he holds true to being in all of his forms, no matter that darkness that sometimes rears its ugly head. At the foundations, he is the man who chooses to be the Doctor. And the Day of the Doctor brilliantly exposed the final moments and the moment of the Time War, to end the Time War, giving us a fashionable way to say that, hey, there is still so much left to the imagination. Nothing has been unwritten or undone from what Russell T. Davies did, laying the foundations of the Time War, but it also gave us a window into the future, the possibility and the hope that the Doctor himself embodies. And, in a nutshell, basically I could ramble on this all day. In a nutshell, to answer the question, absolutely. There's tons more of the War Doctor out there, ages upon ages. He goes from a young man to a very old man. I mean, imagine if the Doctor had just been in one physical form, a la Tom Baker from the very first story he appears in, Robot, to now, to how he looks now. Just that in and of itself is enough time to have passed that the Time War was going on. But then you add in the element of time travel and science fiction. So yeah, it was ages, it has to be, that he was around and he was fighting and he was doing things that probably, the other Doctors wouldn't be happy with. But then again, let's be honest, we've seen many dark turns in the Doctor, and not just in the modern series. He does back down from them from time to time, like Nine's basically not wanting to sacrifice the humans on that space station against the Daleks. It took Rose to do it for him. But then again, we also have the Doctor who killed all the Rachnos. We have the Doctor who basically killed Solomon, and all that kind of stuff. So the Doctor teeter-totters from time to time because he is an alien, because he has faced such darkness. He does bandy it back and forth. I mean, the perfect example of the opposite side of the spectrum is Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor in Genesis of the Daleks, where he's weighing heavily destroying this species before it actually becomes destructive. He uses that great analogy. If you were told a child would become a great dictator, a hateful, bigoted, murderous villain in the future, could you kill the child? And, that's the awe and the inspiration that Doctor Who embodies. And I love that. We have the Time War still. We have an answer to it. We finally have the Eighth Doctor's regeneration. We have an answer to the end of the Time War, how that all took effect. We have an answer to where Gallifrey is, that it still exists. It's, time-locked, as well as it was almost destroyed and all this kind of stuff. But the beauty is there's still so much untapped tapestry of that story with the War Doctor for us to contemplate in our imaginations. I hope you enjoyed this answer, this response, Magpie's Nest Productions, and anyone else who's listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular answer that I've given to it in the comments below if you're able to post. And otherwise, that'll be it for me on this one, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.